Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today we have an absolutely huge video as we recap the Meta Gaming Showcase. Honestly guys, this news is huge, so let me hear some hype down in the comments right now. This year was much bigger than normal, featuring 23 different games, 8 of which were announced for the first time ever. Now if you're pressed for time, I'll briefly go over everything that was showcased, and then if you're looking for any additional information or my opinion, you can use the timestamps below to skip ahead. As expected, their showcase title is the 60+ hour RPG Asgard's Wrath, and it looks like they worked extremely hard to push graphics to the max on the Quest 2. Now the 8 other previously unannounced titles include a port of the action-packed shooter Bulletstorm, a remake of a classic horror-themed puzzle title, The Seventh Guest, a brand new Vampire the Masquerade Justice RPG game, a new dancing title called Samba the Amigo, a co-op hack and slash featuring physics-based combat called Dungeons of Eternity, a stealth-based action title called Silent Slayer Vault of the Vampire, an intriguing story-driven title called Death Game Hotel, where you have to quite literally gamble with your life, and finally there's a mech fighter called Underdogs. Now when it comes to titles that have been previously announced, we have new footage for Stranger Things VR, I Expect You to Die 3, Ghostbusters VR Rise of the Ghost Lord, Attack on Titan Unbreakable, No More Rainbows, Demeo Battles, and finally Ratchet Club. Updates for Ghost Signal, a Solaris game, Little Cities, Onward, Walkabout Mini Golf, and NFL Pro Era. So that right there was everything announced in the gaming showcase, which was one hell of a lineup. Now again, if you want any additional information on those titles, either skip ahead or use the timestamps in the description. But before we get into it, this video was brought to you by Skydance Interactive and their limited time discount for both The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Prepare to jump into a deep storyline filled with unique VR mechanics and plenty of zombies to dispose of with a wide array of weapons. It's rare for a best-selling VR title to go on sale, so don't miss out on this deal, which is currently available on all VR platforms. Skydance has also teamed up with VR Cover, and they're giving away 500 Blood Red Quest 2 covers. Links to both the game sale and giveaway are down in the description. Okay, so let's start off with the most exciting title, Meta's main showcase game, Asgard's Wrath 2. It's been 3.5 years since the release of the absolutely fantastic original game, and this sequel is now 60+ hours long, boasting some top-notch graphics, a new combat system, and a continuation of their highly immersive storytelling. To date, the original Asgard's Wrath remains one of the best VR games ever made, and it looks like they've significantly improved the formula for this sequel. I just doubt they'll be able to match the original graphical fidelity on a Quest 2, but regardless, I'm still absolutely pumped for this game. Now, before we get into those 8 other brand new game announcements, let's go over the updates for existing titles. First up, Little Cities is getting a sandbox mode, so not only will you be able to chill out and build some cities, but also the whole world around them. The ability to create your own personal items will offer up some unlimited gameplay, but if you prefer a little bit more action, one of my favorite VR games, Ghost Story, a Stellaris game, just received the Fleets update. You'll now have 2 new ships to control, which vastly alter how the game plays. Plus, they've also added a relax mode and an autosave system. Now, if you're a fan of NFL Pro Era, not only are they updating the roster, but there'll be an expanded focus on multiplayer, plus some new gameplay modes and features. Now, I've personally never got around to this title, but I've heard good things. And speaking of good things, this summer we'll get update 1.11 for Onward. It'll come with new player animations, an update to the lobby system and shooting range, 2 new weapons are being added, plus a lot of quality control improvements. Now, as some of you may already know, the majority of the development team behind Onward has been laid off, so I'm not sure if this is a last hurrah or Meta's way of saying that the game is still very much alive. And the final game update came from Mighty Coconut, who showcased their new course for Walkabout Mini Golf, Journey to the Center of the Earth. That'll be available on June 8th. Plus, they also introduced a new Evil Layers series that's coming, and Walkabout will also be getting a flat screen release that features crossplay. So this is pretty huge news for all the Walkabout fans out there, and it's absolutely amazing just how much they keep adding to this game. Well, let's move on from game updates for brand new footage for 6 upcoming titles that were previously announced. Looking way better than I expected is Stranger Things VR. You'll be taking on the role of Vecna as he grows in powers and takes control of the Upside Down. It'll be a battle of dominance against some truly monstrous creatures, and I'm really intrigued to take on the role of a bad guy. But if you prefer something a bit more lighthearted, we have the 4-person co-op story-driven shooter Ghostbusters VR Rise of the Ghost Lord. The new footage does show off a bit more gameplay, but it focuses primarily on the storyline, which does look well developed, especially for a VR game. I'm pretty sure this game will be a blast to play with some friends. Now, another title that looks like it'll be a blast to play is Attack on Titan Unbreakable. You'll be battling an onslaught of ever increasingly more difficult enemies, and the game is playable in both single player or 2-person co-op. Now, I just hope the game lives up to the hype surrounding the anime series. We also get a glimpse of Resolution Games' next title, Racket Club, and for those of you who don't know, racquetball is like a mix between tennis and ping pong. It features both single player modes, plus 1v1 and 2v2 online action. Resolution Games has a pretty awesome track record, so I have some high hopes for this game. But Resolution Games isn't done, as they're also showing off Demeo Battles. This is a brand new game set in the world of Demeo, but rather than being a co-op adventure, you're going to compete online in 1v1 or 2v2 PvP modes. Select your champion, build up an army of minions, and then go battle it out to find out who is the ultimate tactician. But if you're not up for competition, the escape room I Expect You to Die 3, Cog in the Machine, looks even better than the previous two titles. You're definitely in for more of the same zany action, but this time it's going to be man against machine, as they're looking to replace the spy agents with some new robots. Now, the I Expect You to Die series is an absolute blast, so I can't wait to get back into it. But right now, let's get into probably the best part of this video, all of the previously unannounced new games. First up, we are getting a VR port of the action-packed shooter Bulletstorm. Now, this title originally released back in 2011 on both the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, which unfortunately does give more credibility to people who claim Quest games are last generation graphics. But since the Resident Evil 4 experience was so good, I could put that aside. This will be a great shooter to revisit in VR, especially because it has some mature-themed, ridiculously over-the-top violence. Now, there's no word yet if it'll include the co-op mode, so we'll just have to wait and see. Now, instead of a straight port, we got a full remake of a classic horror-themed puzzle title game. The seventh guest will have you trapped in a mansion with spirits that just can't rest. Now, I actually remember playing the original version back in the early 1990s, and even though it wasn't much more than a series of unique puzzles, back then it felt quite terrifying. Now, I'm really curious to see how far they've strayed from the original, and if they did a good job utilizing VR mechanics. But if you're not into horror, maybe dancing's more your speed with Samba de Amigo. It looks like you'll be shaking maracas and striking poses across 40 different songs, all set in an extremely colorful world that allows you to play in an at-home party mode or in online competitions. I guess this is VR's take on Dance Dance Revolution, and don't expect to see me playing it anytime soon. But what I will definitely jump into is Vampire the Masquerade Justice. This is an adventure RPG set in the world of darkness. You'll take on the role of a vampire, stalking your prey from the shadows, growing ever more powerful and focusing on what skills to upgrade, all while exploring the dark alleyways of Venice, in your quest to bring your sire's murderer to justice. Vampire the Masquerade features a dark and gritty narrative, with plenty of side missions, and NPC dialogues that let you make your own decisions. Now, I was a huge fan of the previous Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines game that released almost 20 years ago, and for many RPG fans like myself, it's an absolute classic. So let's hope this new title lives up to the name. Now, another title that definitely intrigues me is the 3-person co-op hack and slash Dungeons of Eternity. It features both physics-based combat and spellcasting, and in a way reminds me of the Quest's answer to Legendary Tales. It features randomly generated levels, a wide variety of weapons and locations to explore, plus lots and lots of loot. Now, this is the type of game I love to jump into. I just hope it also has some RPG elements. But if fantasy's not your style, why not check out the mech piloting roguelike Underdogs? In early 2024, we can pilot 5 tons of metal while gearing up with over 100 plus weapons, including powerful tools like chainsaws, wrecking balls, and some hacking equipment. You'll have to work your way up the food chain in this dystopian world. But if you're not up for a direct fight, why not stealth your way through the suspenseful single-player title Silent Slayer Vault of the Vampire? When hunting down an enemy that's much more powerful than you, it's best to take them out when they're sleeping in their coffin. Slowly crack open that lid, disarm any traps, and stake them through the heart before they wake up, otherwise you're about to have a really bad day. There's no official release date for Silent Slayer just yet, but I'm definitely intrigued for this one. And speaking of intrigue, our last title is Death Game Hotel. I really have no idea what to expect for this title, but in this hotel, you're actually gambling with your own life. This definitely looks like a weird one, because instead of gambling with chips, you're going to be offering up your actual limbs. Now, there is a whole dark storyline behind all of this, and we're just gonna have to see what it's all about when this game eventually releases. And rounding out this entire video, they have now officially confirmed Assassin's Creed Nexus, but we're gonna have to wait until June 8th for the full reveal. And that right there was my full recap of the MetaQuest Gaming Showcase. I want to hear in the comments right now what game you're most excited about, and if the showcase disappointed you, please let me know why.
And that was today's video, brought to you by my dad, Mateo311. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here,
consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
We'll see you guys on next time.